United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Teresa, please take the roll.
Okay, Mayor Jones.
Here.
Horn.
Here.
Kill.
Here.
Bowen.
Here.
Schilling. Yep. And Mattson is absent with notice.
All right, do we have any action additions or motions on the agenda for tonight's meeting?
Motion to approve agenda.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote. Bowen.
Yes.
Horn.
Yes.
Keel.
Yes.
Schilling.
Yes.
All right, how about minutes from the 5/6/25 meeting?
Motion to approve the minutes from 5/6/25.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote. Schilling.
Yes.
Keel.
Yes.
Horn.
Yes.
Bowen.
Yes.
All right, how about bills for payment in your packet? Any action on that?
Since I'm signing them, motion to approve. Second.
Any discussion?
Just have a question on the first page, actually, A&B Business. So they do our IT as well. There's two different, is that just rolling over from the previous month where there's two different IT charges of?
One's for April and one's for May.
Okay.
Must have missed the cutoff last month.
All right, anything else? Hearing none, we'll vote. Bowen.
Yes.
Horn.
Yes.
Keel.
Yes.
Schilling.
Yes.
All right, public comment regarding any items not on the agenda? Seeing no one jumping toward the podium, we'll move down to applications, agreements, hearings, resolutions, ordinances. First one, amend special event permit for May 29th Farmers Market to expand the closure area.
That would be for me.
Looks like we have Caitlin here to speak.
Visual aids again. We like visual aids. We like visual aids. So we are looking to expand down First Street,
Yep,
basically to the end of the alley there, right in front of Wayne's Warehouse.
okay.
And then to also close off that alley so nobody can drive through it. Humboldt Sharpshooters reached out to us looking to set up their shooting gallery so that they can do a fundraiser for nationals. Is that correct? Okay. So weather pending, it'll go on the street. Windy weather, it needs to go somewhere where they can stake it to the ground, which would be in the alley.
Okay,
So we're just looking to adjust that closure just for the first market.
okay.
So, and then yes, Rich is here if you have any questions specific to the actual shooting gallery, but.
Which alley are you thinking about closing?
So the one that runs behind, like, Humboldt Sharpshooters and South Park.
Right there. Should
Yep.
have messing with it.
Good.
Do you guys already have this? Own this?
Yes.
Really?
That's cool.
And what's fancy?
Well, I bet you buy enough days that they give you. Is that how that goes? Buy so many, they give you one free? Is that how that? That was the first thing I thought when I looked at the picture.
First thing I thought of was to shoot your eye out, but.
Well, they do have that sign in their front window, so it's kind of, yeah.
That's not Daisy though, that's
Red
Red
Ryder.
Ryder. Thank you. Man.
I'll make a motion to amend special event permit for May 29th Farmers Market to expand the closure area.
Second.
Any other discussion?
I have one thing. I think that we should, because we have so many kids kind of running around, I think to make it a better fundraising event for you, that maybe we have it so that parents need to bring their kids to it. And it's around that back alley. Maybe we could make sure that a parent brings the kids around, and that way it's actually going to be more of a
Somebody who has money
fundraiser for you.
actually comes
Yeah,
over.
and not just a bunch of kids constantly. I don't know what your thoughts are on that, but I was thinking about that right before I came, that how do we make this a good fundraising
Right.
event where it's not just, you know, I love the fact that the kids get to just kind of be in the community, but yet have a parent bring a kid to the range so that you could raise funds. Thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, and that's something we can price up to with just the market, because we can guide them to that from our table. The kids usually come to us first to get their scavenger hunt stuff, so we can kind of guide them through
And
that.
cotton candy.
And cotton candy. Don't forget the cotton candy.
And I would assume you'll have some people directing traffic, steering them toward the,
Safety glasses, the whole 9 yards.
yep. All right. Good point, Michelle, thank you.
Hey, where are you guys building your new facility? I read it in the new, where is that being built at?
Out Montrose Oil,
Yep.
so you go north of Hartford, it's just a half mile
Okay.
to the west on Montrose Oil at that stop sign there.
And ground is broken on that?
Yeah,
Cool.
got the basement pretty much done.
Nice.
Cool. All right, any other questions or comments regarding this? If not, we'll vote. Schilling.
Yes.
Keel.
Yes.
Horn.
Yes.
Bowen.
Yes.
All right, thank you, guys.
Thank you so much, as usual.
Always good to add stuff on.
Yeah.
The market is in only 8 days.
Yeah, it's coming up.
We're ready. We are so ready. We'll
How's
see you all there.
how's that raffle for parka coming? Good?
I'll have Marcus reach out to you tomorrow.
That's perfect.
Thank you.
I will look for that.
How's that raffle for the parka?
For the parka.
Parka, yeah, 'cause it's gonna be,
No parka raffle. There's a
Okay.
hog raffle and a raffle through Silencer Central, in case you didn't know that.
yeah.
Throw that out.
It's supposed to be 75 degrees.
All right, next up, we have Resolution 2025-4, creation of TIF District Number 2. This is for the Windsor Group out on Colton Road and 38, I guess I would call that corner.
What took you so long to get here, Jeff? For the
As
tip?
far as, things seem, I know a little out of order, but honestly, you know, for me, it was, do I qualify? Don't I qualify? Getting educated on the TIF deal. It was in a meeting with other developers, and you guys saying, hey, we're willing to do anything to help you guys, and TIF was one of the things that was thrown out by some city fathers, you know, I guess, so it opened our eyes to it. And developing is expensive, and a little help goes a long ways in keeping things affordable when, you know, we go to sell these lots.
I would say I understand, because I was there, we said, yeah, that was May of last year, I think is when we had that meeting. I look back at my,
No, I was said more recent than that. I can't remember, and it might have been at an HADF, we were at an HADF capacity thing,
okay.
you and I and Travis, it was a smaller group. Ryan might have been there, might have been the three of you and three of us or something.
But long before the development started.
You know, the concept was in place and things were, but there was no ground broken yet, there was, you know, there was.
Right. If that,
And
yeah,
then,
those,
you know, and almost immediately after that conversation is when my partners and I started the ball rolling, you know.
Right.
There's some things involved with hiring this Wendy, and she's putting numbers together, and I know the optics of it look a little out of whack, you know, the dirt is churning, and here I am now, but.
Right, and I think that's probably the concern of us setting up here at the table. We open that door, what happens, what happens? We've got developers that are down the road and, you know, we don't necessarily want the floodgates to open, not that we're negative against anybody doing work in our city, but it does put us kind of in a tough spot, I guess I would say.
Yeah.
From my understanding, we meet the parameters, we have an anchor tenant, we're gearing towards the commercial aspect of it too, you know, it's gonna It'll generate a lot of property tax.
And I'll just add on, I've been looking at this thing from different angles, and actually, when we were having some TIF conversations a few months ago with another developer that was proposing a TIF, and I kind of laid out the question to the council of like, we're at a point where we're gonna see a lot of, I think, development and activity in Hartford that we need to, as a council and as a city, establish what is gonna qualify for a TIF, right? Like that, there has to be some parameters here. Now, I think we're in the process of getting some of those things rolling.
Yes.
One of my concerns is, because I think honesty is always the best thing, is, you know, we got the development with Blue Tide, for example. They got a structure up, they're developing that property, and kind of this is going off. So in our information packet, and I think this is, the city attorney made this quote, but it's a legit concern, is what would stop a Blue Tide? I'm not saying that they would do that, but I'm using them as an example of, okay, they're starting on the project, they're almost, you know, not almost finished, but what consequences, right, does this have in a project at this stage? You know, and I'm not looking for an answer, I'm just speaking openly, because that is a real concern, right? I mean, I'm not a big fan of TIFs personally, but, you know, because they're so complex. I was even doing a ton of research on them.
They are.
They are
I mean,
very
honestly, that
complex.
was part of, from our concept, the trepidation of, this is complicated as all get out.
Yeah.
Just trying to wrap your brain around it is not an
That is
easy thing.
impossible, man.
I've had special meetings with Teresa,
Yeah.
you know, break it down for me.
Make it easy
Dumbest
for
of
me.
sense, you know,
Yeah.
whatever, and it's quite a tool, you know, really, if we as developers can employ it, it does help us make things more affordable.
No.
So can we discuss the concept that I talked with you about with what Crooks is doing?
Oh.
Can we
yeah.
discuss that?
Yeah, and I still don't know what all they did with their
Right,
monies. I believe it involved
right,
adding to their sewer system.
correct.
The city did some work that they ended up collecting back from the TIF, like $1 million worth.
Right.
Sewer
So-
improvements.
So Crooks on one of their tips, they added in $1 million for the city.
Okay.
So when the
Did it flow through the development?
tax money comes rolling in from the county, the first, in their case, $2 million, splits 50/50. Is how they did theirs, correct, right?
Yep.
Am I right, Tom?
Yep.
If I say anything,
No, that's correct.
So,
They deemed it an administrative fee, but in the end of the
Yes.
day, it was to reimburse the city for improvements that they completed within the TIF district.
and looking at your project, if we look at Second Street, let's say, for example, what's gonna happen with that? How, you know, at some point, we're all gonna be sitting here saying, how are we gonna pay for this? We gotta get this thing paved, curbed and guttered, all that good stuff, correct? I mean, that's gonna be on the horizon before we wanna probably address it. That was the thought process with, one of the thought processes with the proposal.
And that would have to be, that could be incorporated into the TIF plan, because there's stages to all of this.
Right.
First, you create the district, which identifies the boundaries,
Correct.
and gives the Department of Revenue the ability to establish your base
Right.
valuation. And then planning and zoning is charged with putting a plan together to come back to the council with a recommendation for a TIF plan that identifies the project costs, the method of repayment, the length of the TIF, all of those sorts of things. And I think, part of the Crooks issue, they wanted to make sure they weren't creating debt, which would be considered city debt, and count against their borrowing capacity. So that's why I think part of the reason they did their TIF the way they did was to treat it as an administrative fee, which there is some administrative costs involved with the city. It wouldn't, I don't think Crooks had $1 million of additional city administrative costs, but they were able to treat it that way in terms of basically getting these sewer improvements done. And perhaps that would work on the Second Street as a potential addition to this plan, if the council's inclined to create a TIF.
But first step is getting past tonight, creating the district.
Correct.
There's other steps that's gonna have to be taken care of, a developer agreement, all of those steps are gonna have to come into place to
You know,
get this.
A couple of the other things, when Maple Pass did theirs,
Yeah,
part of the agreement was that they would waive the discretionary formula for the 20, 40, 60, 80, 100 tax
Right.
discretionary formula for the properties within the district. Single-family housing isn't going to qualify for that anyway, but any commercial or
multifamily.
commercial multifamily could
Correct.
qualify. They waived it as part of their TIF plan.
Right.
But this is a bit unusual in that they have come after basically committing to the development and now asking on the back end to have the TIF, so.
Yeah, I think you used the word incentive.
What's that?
It's designed to incentivize, and in this case, it feels more like a rebate, an opportunity to rebate. And initially, I was just like, no, I'm not interested. But looking at where the TIF district is, while what's currently being developed may not qualify, I would hate to exclude something that maybe would be coming on the north side of East Second Street that could qualify. It may be deemed, if we create this district, there's still a lot of hurdles to jump. And it may be such that what you're currently working on doesn't qualify for any TIF incentive, but something else could. So I'm not opposed to the district, but again, we have to be careful about precedent, right? If developers get to that point.
It's a question of optics. you know.
Yeah,
If I had not broken ground, what would the conversation
It's a
be?
whole different conversation.
Different conversation.
Yeah,
None of it's paid for yet.
well, that's between you and your bank.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, the city don't care.
But the key, you said the key though, Jeff, it's optics.
Yes.
Since the ground's already been broken. All that other stuff, nobody's gonna say, well, geez, have they paid for it or not paid for it? They don't, all they see is all the equipment.
And we don't
But there-
dive into that.
Yeah,
There were things, as we got into it, a board that cost $275,000, and that's gonna benefit that East Second Street and a lot of things in the future, or whatever, there,
right.
Jared, I got a question.
Yes,
Let's say you guys moved ahead with this TIF
district.
district here,
Yep.
and would he be able to do any more work until this is all finalized? Or would he have to stop doing the roads, do anything like that? He would be able to work? Okay.
He would.
Because it's costs incurred or to be incurred are part of the project. Costs that are eligible for.
And if we decide to go forward with the district, can we continue to have the conversation about adding the city in for this?
that intrigues me.
Well, you think it intrigues you, it really intrigued me when it first got brought to me, so,
Yeah, you could, that's all gonna be part of the plan that ultimately.
correct.
The developer will bring a proposal for a plan, but it's up to
Right.
the planning and zoning and to make a recommendation to the
Right.
council, and ultimately the council adopts the plan, so.
I would say, Jeff, right now, that's probably the thing that has got me sitting here saying, I think we at least need to continue the conversation. I agree with what Travis says with the parcels. I don't want to see us get to a point where we stifle something that could change this north part of this parcel. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
And there's, as I understood from planning and zoning last week, the property has not been rezoned yet, so there's still gonna need to be a rezoning.
Correct.
And to qualify as an economic development TIF, there'll have to be a portion of the TIF district will have to be designated for commercial or industrial.
Right.
Yeah, we as a city maybe, well, as a developer, ultimately, the ball's in your court, right? Like, we could lay this all out, and that doesn't mean you're gonna follow it, or have to, you know,
As far as
Run my hands
what you'd like to see when you say lay it all out.
Yeah, I mean, I've run my hands over, gosh, what could the city have done better to get this in front of you to follow a set of sequence?
Sure.
But at the end of the day, I don't know that it matters.
Well, the time to make hay is when the sun shines, is dry spring is ready to go. I've been foolish not, where would I have been? Standing here in the rain looking at an alfalfa field, if I said, I'm not moving anything until I see what this TIF does. I mean, you've got to go forward.
I can understand, yeah, why you proceeded with what you did, and that, so the perception is.
Yep. And if
They don't need the TIF.
And if the ramifications, I guess, are that you don't form the district, well, at least I asked, I guess, or whatever too, but.
Right.
But I don't know if there's any harm in forming the district. That's not to say that anything that you bring forth to qualify is deemed qualifiable. We could exclude it.
I agree, that was gonna be my question, Tom, was, I mean, if we create this district today and say, for whatever reason, it doesn't go forward after that, are we out anything? I mean.
No.
Okay.
Not out anything.
You just make it a district, it's not like we're spending money out there or
Right.
anything like that? Okay.
If there's no
Gotcha.
plan ever put into place,
Gotcha.
it dissolves.
Yes, correct, yeah.
Because the deal with the city being cut in, that ultimately comes through their TIF documents.
Through the TIF plan.
And they're, yeah. So really, we make the ask basically and say, this is how we'd like to have this. And then you guys, it's up to you guys to turn around.
Wendy Anderson, or whoever prepared this for me, would
That's
add
gonna,
what you guys are.
correct. Yeah,
Specify, or
Correct.
what you're looking for into the.
right.
Yeah, really, the most route is some attorney fees, it sounds like. Is that fair?
Yeah, I would
statement?
say, I would agree.
Yeah, Tom's done a little work on this on my, because I
Yeah.
called and asked him to check on this deal before we had the meeting tonight, so we'd be ready to discuss this.
Definitely
Wait, would that
opens
go
up
so deep as to
opportunity.
cover, like, let's just keep using Second Street, or where engineering fees,
Yeah.
everything,
I would imagine so, right? I mean,
Yeah, all of that
I
can be.
believe all that stuff is kind of TIF eligible for
Yes.
expenses.
I mean, in my discussion with Mayor Butch, they kind of came up with the figure and said, this is what we want to do. Basically, the developer and them came to the agreement that that's.
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing that I would like to make sure is perceived in the community is we are a council that wants to provide opportunity. And a comment you made in your, at the P&Z meeting was like, basically alluding to Hartford's hard to work with. And I was really trying to wrap my head around.
I'm not sure if I said Hartford was hard to work with. Hartford is expensive to develop.
Yeah. I asked for the, what did I ask for?
Transcript.
I asked for the transcript, but I didn't get it. I haven't found it in here anyway.
Honestly, I would never say
forbid I
that
misspeak.
Hartford is hard to work with.
Okay.
Because knowing you guys like.
Unless you're going to name some of us, right? Yeah.
I'm not calling anybody. But I will say, compared to other towns and some of the parameters for road building and the requirements, add a lot of expense. I did the math, it's $7,000 to $10,000 per lot.
Because of our street requirements.
Yes.
Well, you pay me now or pay me later. Kind of.
I disagree.
mentality.
I mean, some of this stuff is, there's good, and then there's, whatever.
We lean on our city staff pretty heavily for their recommendation on streets.
Doesn't say don't change them.
One to last.
I mean, if it comes to a road, is there such a thing as overbuilt? No. Honestly not, that because what you put into them, you get out of in terms of life or
Right,
whatever.
exactly.
But they cost a lot more in the beginning.
Yeah.
And I won't disagree with that.
Yeah, and it's, that would pay me now is, the burden is on the developer.
Well,
Pay me later, the burden is on the
It's
taxpayer.
cheaper right now than it is 10 years
Yeah,
from now,
absolutely.
20 years from now,
Sure.
asphalt goes, everything costs more.
Yep.
So it doesn't make sense.
You know, pickleball courts.
I know the optics is the big thing with this one, you know, their plan definitely meets, you know, the requirements for TIF, and,
Yeah.
you know, had to come sooner, I mean, I don't think there'd be any question. But like, put in my report and discussed it with Art a few times, we do need to get a policy passed for TIF criteria that outlines, you need to come to us before development starts, you need
Before
this,
ground
this.
is broken.
I mean, that'd be a good checklist for any of them going forward, for the P and Z and for you guys. I mean, they come to us as, okay, you checked all the boxes, okay, then you can move forward. If you don't, you know, we already
Yes.
have that set. You know,
Because-
right now, this is only our second one, and we don't have a policy set, but we need to work on a policy, and I'm hoping to bring it to you next meeting.
Right.
Would that,
We
would
got
that be
through this
something?
one. So that'll be our, for the future, it's like, you've got to meet all these check boxes. Or
Right.
It's easier to say yes and no that way.
Is
Because
that
my thought
something,
process is too, like, okay, if the TIF isn't approved, are you stopping are you stopping? Like, are you not going moving forward? That's, you know,
What
because once
incentive
it's all.
is there to do more? I mean, you've got to entice people, make Hartford attractive. That would be my question. This can be done in Harrisburg. We're very
put a
TIF
moratorium on
forward.
TIFs.
This can be done in
They
Alton.
put a moratorium on TIFs in Harrisburg.
What's that?
They put a moratorium on TIFs in
That's what I
Harrisburg.
heard.
Use a different example.
We do need somebody coming in.
Don't use Harrisburg.
But how many was that?
Yeah.
10?
yeah.
Oh,
A
yeah.
dozen, 25? I don't know what the number
And
is.
I
don't
think
either.
that's, I mean, I think that's the, as this area grows, is like, that's one thing that I'm challenged with is, you know, TIFs, I think are designed, like the history, they're designed very specifically for certain things. You know, has on here, determine whether a public subsidy, right, is necessary for the proposed development to proceed. So Teresa, I agree with you in the context, and there's optics, but there's also, you know, these are, it's not just optics though, right? That's part of it, but the other part of it is, does the developer actually need it? And, you know, that's entire, you know that information, right? That's.
Right.
And even like some of the tips that we've approved, I never said, okay, it's none of my dang business if they can afford it or not, or if they can move forward or not, but you pretty much, as a council, you're banking on the word that is given to you that, hey, we cannot do this project without a TIF, right? So there's optics, but there's also,
Yeah.
not optics, right? There's also the reality of what these things are
Yeah,
designed
based on
for.
need.
Right.
You know, or what is
Right.
your-
And this, as we know, Jeff, this one gets us kind of in the middle. We've had the discussion that we know we need to get criteria in place, we don't have that. We got this thing down the road, we know what you're doing.
So, yeah, I think the right thing to do, because we don't have all the information, you mentioned Wendy, I don't think any of that information is in this packet that I've located here.
The TIF
Yeah.
criteria.
No,
Okay.
you mentioned Wendy, I don't know.
Yeah.
You guys weren't.
Oh, I think we have that.
Yeah, we've got
Okay,
that, yep.
okay. that
Yeah,
was-
we got that.
That's,
Okay.
she developed the plan, I think.
Okay,
She worked
gotcha,
with
that's-
people
that's-
prepared.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's the same guy.
So
Got it.
are you asking Travis, is it gonna, if we say let's
If we table it till
this for
next
2
meeting,
weeks?
yeah.
Yeah.
Is that gonna be detrimental to anyone?
Is that gonna cause anybody any heartburn?
It's gonna rain for 2 weeks anyway.
I don't see, no.
No?
This process is whatever it takes, I guess, you know, or
Okay.
whatever, like I said, it's all out of whack the way it is.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, that's a good word. We don't usually like using that
My
here.
question for you, Travis, is what do you hope to learn or gain in the 2 weeks?
Well,
I mean, is there something that I can provide, or what do you think?
well, we get these packets on Friday, and we have the weekend to review them. And that typically is the last thing I want to look at when
Agreed.
I'm on my weekend. Yeah. And so then we have Monday, and Mondays are busy. Just more time to talk.
I would say,
I would say your.
let me answer that. I would say give us a chance to have your Wendy, maybe talk with Tom, talk with Teresa, if we needed to have that meeting to talk with her about how we feel that this thing should move forward from the city's involvement in this.
That's kind of the late breaking
I think-
addition is,
I think-
Arden's, can we incorporate something for the
Yeah.
city into it? That's really the part that I'm,
Me too, yeah, I would agree with that.
And really, that just came about, man, when did I call you guys?
Friday.
Thursday or Friday?
Yeah, right at the end.
I mean, I just found this out. I happened to be at a meeting with Butch, and I said, yeah, we're talking about a TIF, and he said, have you ever, bang, he just instantly said, have you ever thought about this? I said, hold the phone, no, and, you know,
Of course, Butch thought of it.
he didn't on his first one. He didn't on his first one. So, yeah,
And I don't know the details of where that $1 million was spent, but I assume it was on sewer improvements,
I think so.
city,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Where it's spent, does that matter? Just when you bring that up.
Well, I mean, I think you'd,
It'd have to be within the district.
Right,
I can be
right,
in
in the district, and-
but
but
I
does
think
like
you've got to.
water, sewer, storm?
There has to be some
You know what I mean?
justification, I
Right, I
believe.
mean, to say, if you
Yeah.
want to say the city of Hartford's gonna incur $1 million in administrative expenses over the 20 years of the TIF, you're saying,
But-
well, it's gonna cost a half of a full-time employee to
Well,
administer the TIF.
yeah, no, but I think if we can figure out how that's worded, that we're gonna have X number of expense on Second
Well,
Street or
and
this
Second
or
Street.
that.
If you
Yeah, Second
incorporate
Street's all
Second
I
Street,
keep
is that gonna have to be part of the district? Because currently it is not.
What's that?
jumps.
I said, if we do incorporate Second Street, we've got to.
It jumps over it.
Yeah, it
It
jumps
jumps
over
over
it.
it, doesn't it?
We need to include that.
Yeah, so those are the
as-
kind of details we want.
So you don't want to approve the borders now.
Second Street is boxed out.
Yes.
Yes.
Oh,
Yes.
Yeah, it's just.
That's what
the-
we
This
got on the
is
plan.
your property.
It's just your
Okay,
parcel.
When I looked at the boundary, I guess I didn't realize that.
Yeah, it's just
it
your
is-
it is.
parcel.
Included the street.
Yeah.
Well, and that's a good question,
Yeah.
because there's that portion where the homes are to the north
Yeah,
of
we could do
Second.
from
two half.
Colton all the way
Right.
east to the end of his development.
Correct.
Yeah, so we'd
I
want
mean, that's
to,
where you'd want to pave.
yeah, because you don't want, obviously, to
Right.
skip that.
So maybe the best course
Lot
is to
area.
just hold off on this, kind of get some of that discussed
Look
and
at
talked about.
the boundaries.
Get those,
parameters.
yep.
Yeah, because
I
if
mean,
you
they're-
approve the
they're not-
boundaries as now, it doesn't include Second Street.
They're not really, they're not city properties, but there are those adjacent property owners who, you know, if we get accused of not communicating very well, and this would give them another opportunity to be made aware of this, what's coming in their neighborhood.
What would come in their neighborhood? I mean, we're annexed on the east, we're annexed on the west of them. At some point, you get into a situation where you will join the sewer system, especially now that there is a sewer line there and available
Right.
to them.
Yeah, that's,
Yeah, you've seen that in Sioux Falls where they
ham
have
ham
that
people in. and-
patchwork.
Yeah. I mean, I shouldn't say I mean, but does it just happen because they are almost
Right.
engulfed all of a sudden? Is there no choice? Or will they always stay on an island and just be?
Right.
Usually if you
Outside
get them
the city.
surrounded and you've got like a donut hole, that's something you can take to the state to argue they have to annex.
Yeah.
Correct. That's-
It's not.
That's
gonna be more
easier
there,
for,
more
yeah, it's
curiosity
easier to
than
force
anything.
that.
Yeah, you don't want
way.
to force the annexation, you certainly want to, what's their incentive?
What's to be gained by forcing really
Right.
nothing?
Exactly.
Right.
Property
We're-
tax.
We're also taking precautions to, you know, kind of foresee those donut holes as well. And we have an agreement that just kind of says once, you have to remind me, Teresa, how
Yeah,
that-
so,
that's set.
so in our growth area, so like outside the city, if anything gets platted outside there, those people have to sign a pre-annexation agreement. Well, you had to do one, you know, when you replatted. They said, once the city gives to you, if we want you to come in.
Seemed like a long
Yeah, you know
way.
how that goes. You know, yeah.
Oh, we're coming. We're coming.
We're looking to the future.
That,
Maybe the
that
park.
train whistle you hear is not far off.
That being said, we want to eliminate those donut holes
Problems
in the future, you know, even if it's 30
It's
years down.
probably
the
good
road.
policy. You can, a little bit of argument now or a lot in the future, just like good streets. Say a little now or a lot.
I think I'm good at that. I would venture, I think we can do, get a lot more fine-tuned on this deal.
Okay.
I'm good with that as well.
Yeah, motion to table resolution 2025-4 until our next meeting, our first meeting in June.
Second.
No discussion on the table, so we will vote. Schilling.
Yes.
Keel.
Yes.
Horn.
Yes.
Bowen.
Yes.
All right.
Will
So,
you invite Wendy to it, or what?
we can't,
Or
I would
will
say.
You guys talk to her in the meantime and kind of bone out
We can
on it
talk
a
to
little
her.
bit?
I've got her contact.
I'd say
Talk with her a
we'll,
little bit about it.
we'll
Yeah.
get in touch with them.
Okay.
So we'll have that talk. And I would venture we'll be talking to you at
If
some
there's
point about,
anything- yeah, if there's
because we're gonna have to come up
anything
with a dollar figure, right? I would assume. We'll start, Justin, we'll start with Michael, we'll start working on
It's
that.
okay.
We'll come up with a dollar figure so we can figure out.
An idea.
So when we come to you and say, here's how we would, here would be the
Well, I think
cities.
there's something mutually beneficial
Well-
to this. And, in the end, that's what I'm looking for. I mean, I tell people, I'm Hartford, born and raised or whatever, and I'm dealing with you guys' age. I just like to see good things happening in Hartford. I like to see forward motion and, a little help from all sides, or whatever. We all work together, things happen.
I will say that when I had that whole discussion and after talking with Tom, that really did change my opinion of moving this thing forward. Because it does make it a little more intriguing for the city. Intriguing, how's that? That's the word of the day. All right, thanks, Jeff.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks for coming.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right, let us move to reports. Hartford Area Fire, his report's in the packet. While we're rolling to that, I'll give you just a touch of a report. We had the SMGA bus tour last week, and we stopped at Rosenbauer. Man, I'll tell you what, that is a big footprint up there. And Mike Harstead was leading our tour group. So I said, man, I'm pretty sure our truck came from here. So I'm calling Craig, asking him for some details on our truck, but, yeah.
It did. It did come from.
It did,
Yeah.
yes. And remember when we were first talking about that, all the discussion we had on that big cab? Man, do they do a pile of those. That's kind of a thing.
Sure.
I was kind of surprised. There was a lot of them. Anyway. Sorry.
I was surprised at the photo SMGA used. It looked like they were just putting a fire truck together in a garage.
It is kind of like, there's several garages hooked together.
Just looked like a garage,
Yeah.
right?
Hold on here, I gotta get, and I had something else I needed to add. So we put on the bottom of his report that the fire department has issued an invite to the mayor and city council to come to the fire station on May 22nd, which is which is this Thursday at 6 o'clock. They're gonna have the burn trailer there.
It's already down there. It looks pretty cool.
If we want to go in and jump in the middle of the fire, which we do every other Tuesday night.
Sometimes more than others.
How's
Some more than
that?
others.
How's that for a seg? All right.
Will we need kind of a roll call on that to see if we're gonna attend, because there's might be a quorum?
Too late to put it out for us.
I'll make it
No,
easy.
put
I won't be
it
there.
for ours, yeah, so I can get it out tomorrow morning. Do we think we're gonna have a forum, or you won't?
Travis is not going.
Cindy's gone.
Sean is
you're
out of town.
So we probably won't have a forum.
No.
If I'm there, it would be after 6:30, so.
All right?
If four of you show up, someone leave.
Like I say,
There you
fourth
go.
one shows up, you gotta.
You know, we always do that, Tom, because you tell us.
We do everything Tom tells us.
Or don't talk about
I
city
had to send
business.
Scott
there you
Nelson
go.
home from some event, I can't remember what it was, but. he
Don't
just
ask
said,
questions
"Well,
like
you're
that,
four, you gotta go."
Don't want the answer.
Yeah, it needs some space.
All right,
between-
let's move on to the most exciting part of the evening, the city engineers report.
Good evening, council, mayor. Quick update on the county chip seal project. Pre-construction meeting was held last week on the 15th. Schedule for them is a week of May 26th. They'll be doing the crack sealing up on Northwestern Avenue, and then actually doing the chip seal on June 9th, based on some of the other projects on that same some of the other segments on that same project throughout the county. it's looking like midweek they'll be in town for each of those portions. Moving on to the project status update, water resource recovery facility. Testing is underway on a large portion of the aeromod, blowers, conveyance line, and getting good reports on those. Plant startup is ongoing as testing passes, just starting to work water through it. There was actually water going through the channel a few weeks ago, and clean water startup is underway. And then lastly, just mechanical, electrical, and plumbing installation continues as portions are delivered or as necessary to keep the project moving. Moving on to Highway 38. Following the site visit on May 2nd, a few punch items were identified as incomplete. Site workers are planning on getting to those this week, but with the rain, are slightly delayed. So once it dries out a little bit for them to do a little bit of regrading of those ditches to get them to drain, they will be back to remedy those. Western Avenue work continues. Phase 1 water main and sanitary sewer installation is complete, and storm sewer installation is almost complete. Real big items remaining on the utilities are the inlets and junction boxes for the storm. Just haven't been able to get to them with the rain. As water flows through the pipes, it gets stuck in those pits, as you can imagine. So I got to get those dried out before getting those built. Once the storm boxes are complete, all of the sewers in River will be graded. Did get a detailed schedule from the contractor, and it's looking like first few weeks of June we'll be paving on phase 1 with change order from phase 1, which is north of Opal, to phase 2, south of Opal, to Diamond Trail around the 4th of July, weather dependent. Moving on to the Parks Master Plan, comments have been provided to the team, and they're working on updating those, working towards the final plan, which is anticipated in early June. And then lastly, Swenson Park, we do have the final geotechnical report on that, so incorporating that into the plans, and we intend to review a progress set with the city at our regular meeting this coming Thursday. Don't have any other update on projects. Happy to answer any questions.
I had a conversation with Justin, just so everybody knows, and I'll put it on the camera. I'm pushing really hard to get this TAP grant done and get that sidewalk built from Turtle Creek to Mickelson this year. Justin.
Yeah, we had a good conversation.
Yeah, it was really a good conversation. Yep. Kind of one-sided, but it was a good conversation.
A lot of good progress on Western Avenue. That project is actually moving pretty smoothly. This rain obviously just slowed that down, but contractors making really good portion on the city progress with minimal, I would say, surprises from the field. So moving along pretty good. Just another thing I got, it's National Public Works this week, so just want to thank city staff and also you council members and mayor for all you guys do within public works in the city. So thank you for allowing us to work with you and the jobs that you guys do in the day.
Boy, we should have got you flowers, Greg.
Didn't even know there was such a thing.
Our gold patch.
Every day is a public works day for us.
He needs another patch on his jacket.
Yeah, new jacket.
Yes.
Any anomalies in the borings out there at Swenson Park, or is that all pretty stable?
Say again.
The Swenson Park soil borings?
Everything looked pretty good.
Stable.
So I had a good conversation with Geotech just on our plan on there, doing the cement stabilized base and doing the asphalt millings. They were on board with that, helping get some of those recommendations with the long-term goal of, pretty much paving that someday. So they like the plan, they were on board with it, they got us good recommendations, and it should be good to go.
Perfect, sounds good.
All right, I see you got a couple action items here, Michael.
Yes, I will bring those over to Justin.
Oh,
Yeah, we do have two action items. So that first one is that proposal that we talked about last week for the water study. Just one thing to know when we started putting hours to it and all the tasks to really build out an existing model, analyze the existing city, but also factor on the community growth on here. We did go a little over than what we had originally budgeted on there. So I just want to make that clear. We can move forward on this if we do need to delay a little bit for some of the funds. we can do that, but still end goal of this study is what was conveyed at last meeting. We get that comprehensive model. There is going to be a phase where we work out in the field to get everything calibrated too. So pressure reading, throughout the city, just to make sure we have an active model. Once we have this model in place, it's going to be a really powerful tool as new developments come online, able to update that and expand it as the city continues to grow. So we've seen a lot of growth. Talking with city staff, we believe this is a very valuable tool to have in place. So here to address any questions. We are partnering with AE2S. They're another engineering firm in town, very specialized in the water modeling aspects, and so we're bringing them on as partners.
So we budgeted 25, so if we go forward, we're holding 29,000 some out of reserves, correct?
Correct.
Oh, 29, that's extra, okay.
That's extra, we had 25,000 budgeted.
How did we,
A lot of the original budget was looking at just the existing city model and doing a capital improvement plan on that. So when we really start looking at the growing city and everything that comes with that, that's where that expansive model is coming into. So just the additional work with that. There is some additional time just on the field monitoring and the calibration too. So, from my perspective, making sure we got a true and accurate model. So those man hours that it takes to go out there and work with city staff to make sure everything's calibrated is added to that too.
So I can tell the folks in my neighborhood who have water boosters that this model will help identify why their pressure is low?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yep. So,
It's too short.
What's too short?
The tower.
Yeah, but they're like, it's right there.
I know.
Why is it right there? Why is my pressure
If you
low?
lived in the valley down here, you're gonna have good pressure.
I know. Got it.
and so that's going to identify, those areas of town, have everything calibrated, and if there are solutions that we can do to holistically look at the city,
Okay. Okay.
not have any unintended consequences to as we continue to grow. So.
How far outside of our current border does it go? I mean, does it take into account, the contouring of the land, or is it just the city limits?
And so we would look at future use plan as part of your comprehensive plan and set those as boundaries. As we continue to know more every day, it seems like with some of the development, if there is tract land that's right adjacent to that, we'll definitely keep that in mind too. So.
That would be an additional incurred expense?
Nope,
This would be
that's included. Yep.
inclusive of this?
Yep.
Got it. Okay.
All right, action from the council on this first one.
Motion to approve the proposal from ISG for the water study.
A second.
Any discussion?
What, how does that sit us with reserves and those types of things, since we'll be over that 29,000?
I mean, we have, you've seen the cash balances.
Yeah.
I mean, we have
We're
plenty
sitting-
of funds and
okay.
reserves.
Yeah.
It
always
just
good to have.
isn't in the budget, so
Yeah, yep.
you just have to realize it at the end of the year. We'll just have to do a, contingency adjustment or a
We could pull
supplemental
this
appropriation
specifically
for it.
out of our water budget,
Yeah,
correct?
water
Which is-
Yeah,
healthy.
and remember,
Yeah.
we got
Yeah.
1.5
Oh, sure.
million, 1.8, something
Yeah.
like that, so it's, it's
It's
very
good.
Would
healthy.
have to come out of the general fund.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Do we have to specify that?
Do we have to- Yeah.
No, we'll take it out of the water. I mean, you can specify that if you want.
Well, when we true up the budget at the end of the year,
That's
that's
the-
That's what
when
we'll
those
know, yes,
designations
exactly.
can be made.
Didn't
Yep,
expect that answered, so it's-
Exactly, but like you said, we would do this out of the water fund. That's where the current is budgeted. I mean, obviously, it's a water study. You
Yeah.
can use
It makes sense.
that money for the water fund, and that's pretty healthy,
Yeah.
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 so when was the last study done again? Well, a number of years ago?
It's been quite a while.
Like
I think
more
it's
than
probably
10
back
years?
when it's probably close when we put the tower up originally.
I was gonna say, like,
20 years ago.
I was gonna say,
Yeah,
I
at least 20,
don't,
yeah.
yeah, being on P and Z
Like 20
before this,
I
I
think
don't
it was
remember.
done.
And we've probably, I bet we've doubled in
Yeah.
population in 20
Okay, so
years.
then here's a follow-up, probably more for the engineers, because I'm all about planning ahead. Obviously, we're a growing town, so we have to. So when we last did that water study, have you guys personally used that data? That
That
whatever,
data's so.
what's that?
That data's so far out. I mean, They're actually doing field testing on meters and pressures, stuff like that. This other one, we never did
I
that
said we
with.
never did that.
They just looked at it, did elevations and said, here's what you should be here, here's what you should have here. So it wasn't very, being real detailed
Okay,
study.
that's good to know then.
Yeah.
My other follow-up question is, so we do this study, and I don't care if it's $5,000 over budget or $3,000 under budget, break this to me very simply, because I'm not an engineer.
Yeah.
When you do this study and you compile all the data you need,
Yep.
how do you actually put that into play, into whatever you guys do on a daily basis in Hartford? How does that actually?
Absolutely. So a lot of it's going to be, when we're looking at these subdivisions, especially as we see the transition on the east side of town, right? As we're starting to get further out of the system, this is going to be a tool that's aligning what our distribution mains are sized at to make sure we're getting adequate water to those subdivisions, right? It's also going to factor in some storage aspects too, where we get another water, what's our water going through our system? Are we having old water in parts of town? We're making sure we're getting that circulation. It's also going to provide some aspects of hydrant flushing for Craig in the city to make sure we have clean water and clean mains that go all the way through it. So, long story short, have a new development that comes into town, we're going to take a look at that, analyze that, see if that's a location where we have one of these larger distribution mains that goes through to adequately provide the necessary water for that area. Right?
And
So
really,
it's going to
long-term, this would be.
It's going to be a very proactive tool that we use to.
Yeah, so we just haven't been using, so if we're doing a new development the last, 10 years, it's just been like, hey, we're putting in this size of, we've been.
There's a lot of general engineering principles that you can look at,
Okay.
adjacent to the city and feel really comfortable. When we're looking at the city of Hartford and the growth that you guys are going to be able to face, we can reflect back 10 years from now and really see what that growth looks like, and it'll probably be pretty unbelievable, especially what we're seeing what's on docket this year for growth. So it's just going to help inform those decisions along the way, and, really make sure we're set up, 2, 3, 4, 5 miles outside of town.
Okay.
Another thing that I see real useful with this is eventually you might have to have a different zone. You might have to have basically a separate system somewhere else with a tower or pump station to take from here to feed them people up there to get them at that same pressure zone. So
I think a sprinkler zone's almost, yeah.
That's exactly what I was just sitting here thinking. If we have a developer or an opportunity present itself, and we have this study done, we could say, well, this is a better area for you, maybe because of the water pressure, or if you go to this area, you're gonna need booster pumps, or we'd have to put other things in place. Is that a fair assessment?
Fair assessment, and utility capacity is probably one of the number one things that developers look at. Right?
Okay. Would this long-term give us a head start on where the next tower would go?
Absolutely.
Okay. That was what I was thinking.
Yeah.
When Sean started asking this question, that's what I thought. If this gives us that first leg up on that, it's probably money well spent now, because it's not gonna get any cheaper, as we know.
Well, the last thing you want is to do a development a mile outside of town, all of a sudden, there's low water pressure.
Right.
Because of shitty planning and city planning, I said city planning, right?
I think that's what you said.
Yep,
All right. Anything else, Sean? You good?
I'm good.
Okay. We had a motion and a second. Anything else? If not, we'll vote. Schilling.
Yes.
Keel.
Yes.
Horn.
Yes.
Bowen.
Yes.
Okay. Notice I let
I know, yeah, you took it.
I let people have a lot of time when I
To
ask.
think about that, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, the next one is, you want to start firing away on this one?
Next one, so thank you guys for that. Second one is just materials testing for Western Avenue, so this is for, some of the concrete stuff. There are some aspects that are on the contractor, there's a portion of that material test and making sure we have a contract with the city on that. Generally do that on all of our projects just for the independent material testing. This line item was carried through when we looked at all of our funding scenarios. In April, in May, there was a line item that included testing and bonding for $30K. So estimate on this is 25 to 29, and Geotech has done a lot of work with the city of Hartford. They're a great partner for us, and would therefore recommend moving forward with them for this project. So,
All right.
Motion to approve the geotech proposal.
As presented? Second.
Any discussion?
Quick question. But it sounds like that this was This was fixed into our original budget for that project, and I believe you said that, I want to
Yep.
clarify that.
Yep.
Okay.
That was within the funding scenario, and I even went back and verified all those facts that Teresa, or those breakdown sheets that Teresa provided to you guys. That was the line item.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, anything else? Notice I'm waiting. If not, we'll vote. Bowen.
Yes.
Horn.
Yes.
Keel.
Yes.
Shelley.
Yes.
All right, anything else, you guys?
That's all, thank you.
Okay. Second most exciting part of the night, Craig's report.
It won't be very exciting, but roads, and I did mark in there that we had a culvert washout. We went in there to see what's going on. It's completely rotted away. We ran the jetter in there to try to clean it, and it went right through one of the walls on it. That's right down on Ment. This last rain that we got just a day ago, it washed out again. I have a locate called in for there. I got culvert lined up. We're gonna, hopefully, if the weather holds, we're looking at maybe Thursday digging that up and getting it replaced, so.
Okay.
So that's with that. And then the only other thing to add, or whatever my report is the pool. We do have some issues with the heater right now.
I stopped out there today.
Yeah, so it's a brand new heater, it got put in. Neil did some investigating before he put it in to make sure everything was sized right. Right now, they've got everything working as far as they know with electrical and everything like that. It's in the sensors, but there's low gas pressure. So he's got the gas company coming out, they're gonna change the regulator on it tomorrow. And then they're gonna do some plumbing on the gas, and hopefully then it'll be ready to fire up, so. No more tomorrow.
Yeah.
But the good thing is, the weather's cold, so the pool probably wouldn't be open anyway,
Right,
so.
yeah.
Because it's gonna be 60.
You want to do that now, or?
I say mine's just jump in. So I did talk with Amy today, or actually, I guess it was yesterday afternoon. Basically, we're set to open on Thursday. Well, if it takes tomorrow and the next day before we get the heater even going, it's gonna take a few days to get the pool even warm enough at all. The weather forecast, we have a policy in our pool manual that if it's 65 or below, close down the pool. All through the weekend until Monday, we don't get above 65 degrees. So with the heater not being in place, with the take a while to warm up, with the weather not being very warm, we are kind of thinking we will hold off until Monday to open the pool. And just want to make sure everybody's okay with that. And we can throw it out there on Facebook and the website and put signs up or whatnot. But it seems kind of, to me, a little ridiculous to have a manager and lifeguard sitting there when nobody's really going to show up.
It'd be a good time to bring the dogs in and.
Oh, yeah, going down there, but Amy agrees. I mean, because you're at least gonna have to pay a manager there, at least one lifeguard, even if you got 2 or 3 kids there. I just don't foresee people utilizing when it's 60 degrees out or
And-
lower.
Honestly, even Monday is only supposed to be a high of 65, so.
Yeah, I'd say Monday, yeah.
If you even wanted to wait till Tuesday, I think it-
Yeah, so
yeah.
that was kind of our plan. I just want to make sure everybody's okay with that. We'll get, like I said, thrown out there tomorrow morning then.
Quick question on the mosquito thing, because I know that the grant, I'm sure Doge probably cut that, but did we have some left over from last year?
We actually budgeted money for sprays and stuff like that.
We did,
So
okay.
we'll be okay as far as chemical.
Okay.
The budget, when we got the grant,
Doge doesn't control our insect spraying.
they cut the grant.
Cut the grant.
They cut the
They take a
grant out.
cut.
No.
But the grant used to go to have Sioux Falls come out and just trap for us and verify what we got from mosquitoes, do the.
Yeah, the West
figure what
Nile
kind
thing,
there.
all the,
We pretty much sprayed what we knew was necessary to spray.
yeah.
So a lot of the grant money went to Sioux Falls and very little went to chemicals, so. So right now, we told Sioux Falls not this year because of the grants, and I think they found that just went out of town as well.
Yeah. Okay.
On the water note, have you touched base with Lacey up at ATS since we've gotten this rain?
Yep, I was up there yesterday
All right,
afternoon.
how's that?
They were worried about it ponding back there. They thought the drainage was out of whack.
Yep.
Well, there is, underneath that grate, there's a silt fabric in there to keep silt from getting into the storm sewer.
Okay.
So that's required to stay in there until there's 70% or 75% of growth in the year taken care of, so you don't have the silting action going down with your storm sewer. So I explained to him that's why you have the ponding issue back here. Josh, he was there, he goes, what about the seed? I said, it's gone. You know, it's plain and simple, it washed away. I said, we're gonna have to wait and see what comes up, you know, we're pretty sure it's not gonna, we're gonna be out of the seed window, you'll never get to stay going, I mean, unless somebody waters it daily.
Gotcha.
I said, you're probably looking at a fall seeding again. So.
Got it. They didn't have any complaints or anything. It's, her kid is in the same class as mine, so we were at field day and chatting, so I just wanted to make sure that
Yep.
we reached out to them.
Yep, I was up there yesterday.
Awesome, yeah, and that was before, I even talked to her before the rain happened, so.
Craig, there's a fair bit of debris on the roads from,
Corn stalks, stuff
corn
like that.
stalks,
Yeah,
rocks,
Jim was out
silt,
today trying to
gravel.
get a lot of that, he's with all the sweeper today, he ran
Okay.
Nicholson to get those corn stalks out there before they got in the.
Yeah, that area up north,
He'll
down
help, yeah,
Oaks.
yeah. He'll be-
Terry was out with the skid steer too, cleaning
Cleaning
off,
some of that stuff
like
up,
on
yeah.
Fighter.
Okay,
Got a lot of
yeah,
gravel.
yeah, just it seemed like it could become a hazard,
Yeah, no,
especially at the intersection.
getting them cleaned up.
Sounds good.
When the rain, oh, go ahead.
Where at on Month was the culvert,
It's on Menth,
or Meth?
right down by our shop there, well, it's right across from, Diesel.
Sideline diesel.
Yeah,
Oh,
sideline
yeah,
diesel.
that's south of there.
That's right there.
Got it, okay, sure.
So we will be shutting the road down for, you know, what we're doing, we gotta find the fiber optic first. They ran it right underneath the culvert, so we don't know if it's, how far down below it is.
Sure.
So, and we're gonna go with concrete culvert instead of steel, so it's thicker. So we gotta make sure when we take the old out and get it cleaned up, that we are well above the fiber, so.
Sounds good.
So their First Street's actually a truck route.
Yeah,
So, I mean, and the elevator, we'll let them know that, hey, run this other direction for now. When we were out there working on, just trying to get a Band-Aid back together, last week, they knew about it, they were already running a different route, so.
sounds good.
What'd this rain do to our lagoons? Fill them up?
I guess I didn't see what the numbers were today. They typically will, get close to, stopping discharge, because we are getting down there now, or it'll probably this week or next week we'll be shutting that down, so.
Okay.
And then we'll wait to see about getting rid of another pond. I'd like to try to get them all
Drained
drained
down.
down this spring, so that once we switch over, we can concentrate on getting them dried up, so.
Yep. Be awesome. All right. What else you got, Craig?
That's all I got, unless somebody else has something else.
Anybody else got any questions?
Good to hear.
All right.
Thanks, Craig.
Karen, you got anything to add?
I don't have anything to add. I do have an action item. We have a CD that we collect customer deposits on the water accounts, and we have to keep that money separate from our general fund because it's restricted for refunds and whatnot. So we kept some of that money in a checking account to use when people move in and out and refunding. And the balance, some of the balance, we decided to invest in a CD, and we've done that for a number of years now. The last CD we did was for 5 months, and it has come due, so we need to decide if we want to reinvest that again in another CD. I've included the rates from both local banks here in town and the terms. Yeah, if we want to do that, I just need a motion from the council as to the term and the amount and who the authorized signer would be. In the past, it's been Teresa and I on the CD, so,
All right, and your recommendation is that we look at Reply Bank?
yeah, they have the best rates.
Okay.
Motion to approve a 5-month CD with Reliabank for $86,515.53 with the city administrator and the city finance officer being the approved signers.
Second.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote. Shelley?
Yes.
Keel?
Yes.
Horn?
Yes.
Bowen?
Yes.
All right, anything else you need, Karen?
Nope, that's it.
All right.
Question. I see there's the signature streetscapes for the wayfinding signage. What was the resolution or what was the final sign? There was some discussion about how that sign should look here at this council.
How it should look?
Yeah, how it, there was some discussion, quite a bit of discussion about that.
There was discussion more, I think, on what the city was gonna pay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so not the final. When will that go up? Maybe that's a better question.
As soon as it's, looks like payment was made, so as soon as it gets
It'll
here.
be sent tomorrow.
It'll be
Sent tomorrow. You guys
Okay,
approve it,
so
bill
then,
sent tomorrow, then sign it.
then I think they said it's a 5-week for delivery.
Cool. Be here in time for tourist season.
Yep.
Tours?
Yeah, we do. All right, anything else?
Hopefully the
It'll be
road's
time
open.
for service.
Right. West Union, yeah. It'll be here before Western's open.
All right, thank you, Karen. Teresa?
I should give you the project updates. Just on top of that, just give you, we have got everybody hired for our summer help now. We got some apps for the park rec in. I did those interviews this last week, so we've got 2 assistants now hired, so we're good to go with all our summer help. Basically, the only thing we're still taking applications on is obviously the wastewater operator. Craig and I did a couple initial interviews earlier this week. We have one again for Thursday. Of the 26 applications, 3 were probably the only viable ones to interview, and I can give you more of an update in executive if you want, but we did do some initial interviews, and like I said, we got one more to go. Still accepting applications though on that. Otherwise, Park and Rec Board met last night. We talked about a few things. They're working on their budget for numbers for coming, during our budget meeting. We also talked about the concession stand. Actually, we, put it out there for the band to possibly, work that stand. They have their music association meeting tonight, and so hopefully I'll know something tomorrow if they want to take over, certain days or weeks or whatever. And then last night we kind of talked, well, whatever they don't want to do, we would throw it out to the other nonprofits to see if we can get some of the other games covered. So we're going to go down that road. Like we mentioned kind of earlier, we're going to look next week at putting some criteria together for a TIF, because I've been asked several times, this is going to get more and more, everybody's looking at TIFs, and so to have that kind of checklist in place is going to help the P&Z board, it's going to help you guys. I reached out to the other cities, and about 5 of them have already sent me sample policies that they've enacted, just because they say the very same thing. Everyone's just coming to it for a TIF now, so they've got some criteria that would be a good base for us to start looking at. So we'll have more discussion on that next week.
Will that need to be approved through planning and zoning first, or is that kind of something we just run with?
It'll be a policy, so ultimately it'll be you guys. We can have planning and zoning review it, we can have a discussion, get a recommendation, but a policy that you guys will implement.
They don't need to look at it.
Well,
They're just gonna
that's-
kick it to us anyway.
Yeah, no, that's what I mean, I was more curious than anything, so.
Yeah, I'll definitely show it to them, because obviously the first step starts with them, and like I said, it'll be very helpful at their last meeting to have, okay, does it meet,
Right.
these checklists or whatnot, so we can have more discussion.
They had a lot of the same questions you folks
Oh,
had
exactly.
They
last
had the
week at
same,
their planning and zoning meeting, so
For sure.
just provide guidance, so.
Awesome.
Otherwise, nothing has changed really from my report, unless you guys have questions for me.
I forgot to say this during the ISG's report. There had been some question about what is and this is different really than TIF stuff. I'd asked Justin to give me kind of a Cliff Note version of, so when a project starts, what happens? They gotta have their concept plan, they gotta have this. So, did you get this, Teresa?
Yep, Justin covered me.
So, I want you guys to all have that. I think you should send it out to all the council. It's kind of a Cliff Note version of, rather than having to go to the subdivision regulations and try to figure out what it is.
I would love to see that.
This kind
I'll
of
send
gives you so this is what they gotta do first, this is what they gotta do.
Yeah, it was fabulous.
Yeah,
I think in addition to that, Mayor and I talked about just getting a quick little fact sheet, cheat sheet, kind of graphically put together too. That's Cliff Notes, but it's still 2 pages of
Yeah.
typing there.
but,
Just
yeah.
where the different processes, whether it's the subdivision approval process or the site plan approval process, to not only help, whoever, but the developers,
Right.
you know, whoever's coming in.
Right.
Those. Still references back to the ordinance, but it's something very easy
Right.
to read and.
Yep, just
I forgot to
there are
bring that up
steps,
when you
yeah, in
gave the
development. that we
report,
gotta-
but yeah. So I'd ask Justin to put that together. So I think that's something that'd be handy for us as council, just to have in our access. So if somebody says, hey, how does this work? Or
Yep.
why are they doing this? You know?
Yep.
Because that's really what started the conversation. We were wondering, you know, we see all this work going on, where are we at? So, anyway, okay.
I was just looking here, there was this is kind of a question for both, or for Craig, I apologize, but, there was something on Hartford Happenings about a group being formed because of the dust on Railroad. And I thought,
Oh,
Saw
yeah.
that.
how ironic, it's been
They
raining.
They just put another lift of gravel on there because it was low on gravel, so we
Yeah.
just did that last Thursday or Friday.
Okay,
We very seldom have ever mag watered before
right,
the very end of May or first part of
yeah,
June.
yeah,
So we're still kind of like on schedule with it.
okay,
Like I said, it's been bad because we haven't had any rain.
yeah,
We got brand new gravel up there,
yeah,
so.
okay.
I was also approached by somebody on Kelly Avenue that walks through there, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've been called a few times.
Yeah,
I've been
that's,
called a few things too.
I just found it
And
interesting that
FYI,
the go-to was Hartford Happenings instead of Craig,
Yeah, right.
or the city council, you know.
and just to let you know, I have been contacted with a property owner along there, Bev Skyberg Taylor.
Yeah.
She
Yeah.
wants to come to the next council to discuss her concerns with railroad.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
It's funny because I
Yeah.
was going through my emails, trying to clean them out because I got too many in there. And I went back to like 2016 or something like that, and I was deleting one. I didn't delete it because Arden's complaining about the dust.
And you know what? I probably got it too. I should send it to you again.
I'll be honest, Craig, I just deleted an email from 2016 today myself.
Man, Craig,
Those little
I better keep track of that one. That might have to come up later.
I tell you, the thing that I always just kind of chuckle over is still waiting for the contractor to finish punch list items. Still waiting for the contractor to finish punch list items. It just seems to be a, you know, just a go-to.
We were really close on Highway 38, and the last thing was those ditches to be graded out. So we had that one rainfall that showed where those drain was. Obviously, this rain for the past 2 weeks. We're going to slow play a little bit. I don't want them going in there. They're going to make a lot bigger
Absolutely.
mess.
Yeah,
We
they have
are getting
skiddy
some
down
of
the
that.
corner. So
We're getting some of that establishment.
Yeah.
I would say a large majority of that project looks decent, but, you know, there's still that one last 1 to 2%, you know, that we're pushing to
Yeah.
get them done on, so.
What has me the most concerned would obviously be the North Oaks, the 12th and Oaks project, yeah.
Yeah, and I've talked with IDG about that. They've got to get on the contractor, get those punch list items done, because our grant expires at the end of June, and we have got to get through the last pay app and approval through you guys at one of your meetings before the end of June. And that takes a little bit of time, so I was having them push for the end of this month, so we can get through June, get our process done, so everything's still covered with the grant.
Yeah, yeah.
So they're aware of that.
Very good. Sounds good, thank you.
All right, anything? All right. Oh, excuse me, he's coming. Nothing under old business. We got a couple items under new business. First one is a request for Kyle to attend the South Dakota Building Officials Association Summer Training in June.
Motion to approve the Kyle attending the South Dakota Building Association, Officials Association Summer Training.
Second.
Any discussion?
I would like to just have an update on these things.
Yeah.
Not an update, I'm not looking to micromanage, but I think I made myself clear to the council how I feel
Yeah.
about.
Well, he provided one from the last one we went
Yeah, you
to.
did.
I sent it out last
Oh, you
week
did?
to you
Okay,
Yeah,
guys.
he did a nice
wonderful.
job.
And,
Okay.
yeah, I'll tell
Yeah.
him.
I busted out of saying that, but I, you know, but I think.
I think you're reading my emails.
Yeah, but I think it's a good practice, so.
Mark dated 2016.
Is that just for Kyle then, or?
No, what happens in Deadwood stays in Deadwood. I don't want to know what happens out there. No, but I think it's just good,
Yeah.
Good practice.
just to see it, what'd you learn, whatever, I don't know.
Yeah, just,
Yep.
I don't think it has to be anything too.
Doesn't have to be
forward,
robust.
Just,
No.
yeah, like, 'cause it-
Like what I said last week, I said, if you can type something up with the classes and kind of what was
Yep.
discussed and.
All right, good. Anything else? If not, we'll vote. Bowen?
Yes.
Horn?
Yes.
Keel?
Yes.
Shelley?
Yes.
All right, the last item under new business is a mayoral proclamation for Siouxland Libraries, and I'll just read this off. Siouxland Libraries has provided information, resources, and services to Sioux Falls and Minnehaha County for the past 30 years, and whereas established in 1995, Siouxland Libraries has diligently served the residents of Sioux Falls and Minnehaha County by connecting them to information and ideas to enrich their life, foster the love of reading and learning through welcoming spaces, and whereas for 3 decades, Siouxland Libraries has offered free and equitable access to a vast collection of books, digital resources, educational material to enrich the lives of individuals of all ages and backgrounds, and whereas the library has evolved to meet the changing needs of our communities, offering programs to support early literacy, technology training, job search assistance, and cultural events. And whereas Siouxland Library has consistently provided welcoming and inclusive spaces for residents to connect, learn, and grow with 13 branches, and whereas the partnership between Hartford and Siouxland Library has been instrumental in providing these essential services, I, therefore, the Mayor of Arden Jones, Mayor of Hartford, do hereby recognize and celebrate the 30th anniversary of Siouxland Library's service to the city of Hartford and Minnehaha, and proclaim recognizing the 30th anniversary of Siouxland Library. How you like that?
I like it.
It's been a great partnership.
It has.
And now, I know we have a few items for executive session. We need to move to executive session for economic development and personnel. And legal.
I make a motion to move to executive session for personnel, legal, and economic development.
Yeah.
Because you don't have a majority to say about that, I would have to stay in executive.
Well, we just,
I'm
kind
putting
of a
down
flaw,
for
right?
yes, 'cause I
Kind
don't
of a flaw. One of us would just leave the meetings over.
Yeah, yeah, people just walk.
Yeah, she has to get it hooked up. But before we get a motion here, I want to make my plea. So don't jump in right away. Give me 30 seconds.
Oh.
Oh, okay.
I sent you the state.
Okay. All right, perfect. Okay, yep.
All right, before we adjourn the meeting, I want to make a public ask and plea to the Ward 2 residents of Hartford, South Dakota. We have an open spot. If you have any interest in serving on the City of Hartford Council, please contact Teresa at City Hall or call me. My phone number is available on the website. We'd love to have as many people ask and get involved as possible.
Or anyone on the council.
Or anyone, yeah, or Sean, or anyone on the council if you need information, because we'd love to have some people step forward and fill that spot. Okay? All right, now I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.